There is a school of thought that believes that all things physical are first the result of an idea, then the idea becomes an energetic template that the physical world brings into existence based on this template. The idea, the template, and then physical manifestation. In the world of energy healing, there is an approach that relies on the sequence that physical problems are the result of a faulty energetic template that the physical world then brings into existence. Fix the template, fix the problem. Our guest today is Ellie Pechet. She is a healer in this tradition, and not only does she address physical maladies, but she uses this energetic approach to cure emotional problems such as deep grief, trauma, and emotional blocks. Ellie has a master's degree in traditional counseling from Cambridge College and then augmented this with her highly developed intuitive skills to create a healing method unique to her. She is also the author of Hitching a Ride, A Guide to Earthbound Spirits and How They Affect You. I'd like you to look for three things in our conversation. One, how she dissolves the faulty energetic structures. Two, how she uses both her team and the team of the client, now we're talking spiritual teams here, to achieve optimal success. And three, how this technique could be used to further the evolution of humans. Here's our interview with Ellie Pechet. Ellie, welcome to the Afterlife Files. We are really glad you're here.
Thanks, Scott. I'm really glad to be here.
I have been looking forward to this interview because you have a really unique set of skills, and I'd like to talk about them. So, why don't you get us started with a short story about how you became a healer and intuitive, and how'd you start going down this path?
It wasn't a kind of a head thing. It was just sort of a intuitive spiritual thing that I was led one step at a time, really, on my path. And I was fortunate to start in my 20s. Started with counseling, and then I started incorporating counseling. Sorry. um, Intuitive healing into my work, and that's really where my greatest ability is to help the people I work with is with the intuitive healing.
And when you say counseling, meaning you were counseled or it was your master's in counseling?
Well, I got a master's degree in counseling, and I consider that the foundation of my practice, 30 plus years later. And it helps me to more quickly identify issues and diagnoses that clients have. And I pride myself on being efficient when I work with clients. So I clear whatever their top issue is every session.
And when you are talking about um, counseling and intuition, when did that intuition kind of open up and why?
I've always had the intuition. I would say that it really started coming into my service, helping others, and my career in my 20s, and it's just increased ever since.
And did you take like active steps to increase it? Did you study certain techniques or how did that work?
Well, I would say that the intuitive part is natural. I did discover that I was a medium sitting in a mediumship circle, development circle, many, many years ago. And all of a sudden, just being able to hear specific messages for specific people that were in the circle. And so it was exciting, and I incorporated that into my work. And I do mediumship readings, but not as much as I do uh, clearing specific issues for people like grief, depression, trauma, anxiety. Yeah,
So tell us about this work as a healer, because it's unique unto you.
yeah. Thank you. Well, what would you like to know? um,
How does it work? Why do you use it? Uh, some stories about when you do use it. You know, take your pick. Start anywhere you want.
oh my goodness, where to begin? Well, I can honestly clear just about anything for just about anyone. So whether it's emotional or physical, I love to clear emotional issues for clients like grief, trauma, anxiety, depression. And I can literally, what I do is I don't, I don't absorb what I clear for my clients. I literally, because that wouldn't be healthy, I literally dissolve it, and I go in like a laser. And say someone is dealing with grief, like I helped a mother who lost her son who was murdered his first year in college, and she completely shut down after that. He was her only child, and he had his whole life ahead of him, and she was just devastated. Anyway, she came to hear me at the Afterlife conference in Scottsdale, and she had been shut down for 7 years. And so it was even a big deal that she went to the conference. But it was meant to be. And she attended a workshop that I did. She could feel the energy as I was working with the group, and signed up for, I think, 4 sessions right after. And in her first session, I was able to literally bring her to peace about her son who had died. And she was astonished, and she left a beautiful, there's a beautiful testimonial, video testimonial by her on the website, in the testimonial section. But after that, we went on, and I cleared other issues that were not as drastic as losing her son, but were, for example, an ongoing difficulty that she had had with her sister. So I cleared that in the second session. And, each session, she was able to cross off the biggest item on her list. And that's pretty much what I pride myself on, is being really efficient with the healing work that I do. And I clear the big stuff for people.
And when you say dissolving, that seems really intriguing to me. What does that feel like on your end?
Feels really good. I go through my whole technique, and it's worked so well, and for so long that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Um, yeah,
Describe that technique a little bit for us.
sure. So the first thing that I do is, like, you want me to explain like a typical session?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. So the first 15 minutes, the client and I dialogue, usually online. And the subconscious is pretty uncanny how it will bring up the most important issue that needs to be cleared that session. And so as we're talking the first 15 minutes, I'm also honing in at the same time to to feel and hear what it is that needs to be cleared, and then she or he will also end up saying it. And then I'll muscle test and make sure, I have to get the exact wording of what needs to be cleared. One word can throw it off. And I'm here to be effective and to help people. So I make sure I have the right issue and what is going to be for their highest and best to clear. And then I use a pain scale, excuse me, pain scale. And usually the issue is, like an 8, a 9, a 10, sometimes more than a 10. And so I'll write that down. I have them write it down. I also have them write down what the issue is that was intuited. And then I start actually clearing the issue. And when I say clearing, what I do is, as I mentioned, literally dissolve it. So I send the energy in with the intention of clearing the issue that's been identified. So say it's hopeless, or it could be lifelong depression. I've been doing that quite a bit lately. Every time just before I send the energy, I'll send the intention to clear lifelong depression. And each time I send the energy, I'm actually dissolving it. Does that make sense? Can you imagine that?
So um, you're sending energy to the client and you're addressing a certain blob of depression, and your intention is to make that blob of depression just kind of disappear and go away. Did I capture that?
Yeah, it doesn't really go away. I don't know anyone else who can do this, but I literally dissolve it as I'm working with the client. So as I'm working with them, say it's lifelong depression. They've had depression their whole life, have not been able to get past it. In fact, I just cleared lifelong depression for a wonderful client a couple of weeks ago, and she said like her whole life has changed, and she feels so much better from that one session. Um, so yeah, so say I clear an issue like lifelong depression, then the next thing will be, I'll check in with them. And what's unique about my technique and what really works is I clear the issue from this life, and then I clear it. I go in again, and then I clear it from any past lifetimes so that the pattern is done and complete in one session per issue.
That sounds remarkable. Is this
Thank
a
you.
is this a visualization technique that you do, or
It's visual combined with energetic, and a unique ability that I have to send energy in literally like a laser. So I start with the neural pathways, I dissolve it in the neural pathways, which is where things get the most stuck. And then I continue and dissolve the issue in each chakra, also known as energy center in the body. And as I'm working with the client, not only is the issue literally dissolving before their very eyes, uh, they're also feeling more and more deeply relaxed. The energy feels really gentle and really delicious coming in.
so that leads to a really interesting idea that, okay, so we've been working with this pattern of depression for your whole life, right? It's just kind of built into my neural network, say if I had it.
Yeah,
And you go through the chakras and it dissolves. You look at my neural pathways in my physical body, I'm assuming, and my non physical body.
yeah.
And okay, so it's now dissolved. What is it replaced with?
Well, that's a great question. That's the last thing that I do is
I knew
After,
that.
of course you did. After dissolving the issue, whether it's grief, depression, anxiety, a trauma, that's gone. And then I do an imprint, an energetic imprint. So if someone was uh, depressed, for example, if that's what I'm clearing for them that session,
Hmm.
then I might imprint them with being, open to joy, open to life. It's very individual for that person. So it's whatever they need the most is what I will hear and intuit and then do the imprint. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And yeah, yeah.
And is
It's
this imprinted guided by your guides, their contract with, the when they came in? How does that work?
Well, that is a good question. When I'm doing a session, I'm working at a really, really high level vibrationally, and so it's my intuition and also, having honed my ability to heal over many lifetimes combined with, a team of guides that works with me and as well as the client's guides. So it's a high level process, and that's why I can clear something like a depression that someone has had their entire life over decades in one session.
Is because you have a whole team with you.
I've got the team. I'm working well, and I'm working at a really high level, a very elevated level when I'm doing the healing work. Not like you and I now. We're talking normal, at a normal human level. But when I'm going in, when I'm healing someone, uh, I'm at a much higher vibratory level. And yeah, it's really interesting. Some people will see colors start coming in, like beautiful purples and greens as I'm working with them. Some will feel like they're flying. I mean, everyone has a different beautiful experience, but what's most important is clearing their top issue each session, and that's what I'm here for is helping people get beyond their issues so that they can start to live their more of their purpose and what they are here for.
So if I said, Ellie, what I really want to do is do an out of body experience. And I think I've got some fear about leaving my physical body and going and, tooling around the non physical universe. Do you do that work? That kind of
Yeah,
fear?
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would muscle test them for being, afraid of leaving their body and clear it so that then they're at choice. And if they want to leave their body, the fear is gone and they can. Good question.
Well, I assume that you could do things like I'd like to open my third eye. I'd like to, whoops, sorry. I'd like to become enlightened, whatever that means. Um, so I take it there, you can take this further than just grief and anger and betrayal and, human bound stuff, but, what's the next, you know, uh, thing we can learn that would help in our own evolution?
Yeah, that's a good question. I meet the client wherever they're at. So if they're, if they've already dealt with a lot of their issues and they really want to progress spiritually, like being able to leave the body, open the third eye, advance on a spiritual plane, then that's what we do.
That's what we do. Sweet. Um, we haven't talked about physical issues like medical stuff. So, um, I don't know. Let's pick some common stuff. People have high cholesterol. They have, well, me, I've had tinnitus since I was 14 years old, ringing in the
Oh,
ears.
yeah, yeah,
Um, do you do that work too?
absolutely. Yeah. Like I said in the beginning, I can clear almost anything for almost anyone. I work with the heart if there are heart issues. Um, I had a guy on Cape Cod who had tinnitus and Meniere's disease for 16
Oh,
years.
Meniere's. That's awful.
It was awful.
That for those of you in podcast land, that winds up making you dizzy like all the time, and your whole world spins around, and we all know what that feels like, but all the time. Oh, so you were
He
able to help him out.
Well, yes, it took a few sessions. Physical conditions are always take more than one session because there are other components involved, emotional and sometimes spiritual. In his case, he owned the Days Cottages on Cape Cod, and he had suffered with Meniere's and vertigo for 16 years until he met me. And we were actually kind of brought together. I was actually on a little vacation on the Cape and hadn't planned on working, but on a higher level, it was meant to be. We were brought together. I rented a cottage from him, and the first time that we met, he started talking about his Meniere's and vertigo. Now he owned these cottages, and it was very busy in the summer, as you can imagine, Cape Cod in the summer. And he it felt really good to him to let me help him, and he signed up for some sessions. And the first session, guess what I cleared?
Uh, Something to do with the crystals in his ears.
No, no, no. He was feeling hopeless about his condition. He would have to stop what he was doing when a wave would hit him and he would get dizzy. And knowing how busy it would be maintaining and running cottages in the summer on the Cape, it was very difficult, very challenging for him. So he was also feeling hopeless about the outlook of the rest of his life, and he was getting ready to retire. So that's what I cleared. The first session was hopeless, and by doing that and imprinting him with being hopeful, the next session I was able to start working on the physical conditions of the Meniere's and the vertigo because he was open. So by clearing, an emotional issue that could block me from helping a person with a physical condition, it's like it gets their ego out of the way and it makes the work that I do a lot more efficient.
Well, that makes sense that it is um, that we take care of the energetic block first so that we can then address the physical issue. It
Exactly.
it doesn't have a pattern to go back to that would manifest itself in the physical world again. Hmm.
Right. That's right.
You mentioned heart just a second ago, and that reminds me of the work that we do in helping people to communicate with the other side or with their helpers or guides or whomever. Usually it takes an open heart to be able to do that. And is that true? And how do you work with that?
Well, I heal broken heart for people. That is one of the more common issues because people do get hurt, over the course of their lifetime and in relationships a lot of times. And so that there's the emotional, heartbreak, and there's also the physical conditions. Well, so when a person does have a physical heart condition, often there is an emotional component to it. And uh, so, sorry. um,
Okay,
so yeah.
what's coming through? Because I can tell you just got a hit.
Well, I actually worked with boy, I've worked with a number of people that have had broken hearts, and actually, I could share uh, one of a person who the love of his life was kidnapped, and his heart completely shut down when that happened, and he developed this heart condition, and it got progressively worse. And by the time when that I met him, he was on oxygen, and he was really deteriorating. And so I spent some time talking with him. And what bubbled up to the surface, as I mentioned, often the subconscious will bring up what needs most to be healed. And during that initial conversation, he mentioned how the love of his life had been kidnapped, and it was like 20 years earlier. And so I muscle tested him, and I do this working with a pendulum, and I realized that it was heartbreak, and that was the most important thing to clear for him. And so I did that, and the next day he was literally off of his oxygen, and he was able to breathe independently, and his health improved from there. I only did the one session with him, but it made a huge difference. I mean, if you think about it, you can imagine, right? The heart is like it's grand central. So if the heart shuts down, if it has too much trauma that it can't process, it's going to affect all the other organs, and everything else is going to often start shutting down. So I really, it's really important to me to make my work as efficient as possible and to help people as much as I can, and get real results for them. That, life is short, right?
Have dessert first.
That too.
um, and people who do intuitive work, talk about having an open heart in order to receive intuition more clearly. Um, that seems like it could be part of that process you just described.
Yeah, speaking of hearts, I work with family members. A client will hire me to work with either their young children, using their picture, or their adult children. Right now, I'm working with adult sons, with a couple of families, and I have them send me their picture and tell me what it is that is, what's going on with them. And just yesterday, one of the adult sons that I'm working with, using his picture, uh, he's been in prison, and you know he was involved in a tragic incident with his infant son, who died in the incident. And he's never talked about these things, about these really traumatic life issues. He never talked about being in prison, didn't talk about his guilt about his infant son, who lost his life. And I've done a few sessions with him using his picture. And yesterday I did another one. And what came up to clear for him was having a closed heart, from all these issues and events. And so that's what I dissolved. I worked on his heart, and then I imprinted it with being open to love, open to feeling love. And it was really really a beautiful session. It's going to help him feel a lot better and emotional, be able to feel his feelings. And then I do some little bit of coaching with the parent after. Like I did a little bit of encouragement and coaching with his mother later after the session, and suggested that they get together and just have a nice, uh, a nice, calm, relaxing meal together, and that she gently, if he seems open, which I think he will after yesterday's session, if he seems open, to encourage him to talk about what was it like being in prison, what was that experience like, and it's going to help him, and it's going to help their relationship, and it really resonated with her.
I'm glad you mentioned that you can work with families. Um, to How do you do that? All 10 of you don't get on a Zoom call. Yeah.
No, no. I work one-on-one. And so um, she's having me work with her two sons. And so we'll talk about what's going on with each one. And then I have the parents send me the picture of the child that they want me to work on, and what the key issues are, what they're most concerned about. And then I will schedule a session just like I do with my online clients, and I'll work with their photo, and I'll listen, and I'll intuit what is it that most needs to be healed that session. Like yesterday with this guy, it was his heart. But a couple of weeks ago, the issue that came up was a pattern of anger. And so I cleared that. And then yesterday, when I worked with him again, I tested him for anger, and it was still clear, because like I said, I take care of something really big each time. So the anger was done. And yesterday he was ready for me to work with his heart. And when I say ready, I mean on a higher level. So like I'll check with the soul of the child that I'm going to be working with, and they always want what's best for that person. So that's how I get permission, and then I get the results, and then their life improves.
I'm glad you said that because, usually I think of when you work with somebody, you've got to, well, get their permission to do the work, but you can ask at a soul level
Yes,
what's best for Fred,
right.
even though Fred isn't around or Fred's in prison or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um, so you must have some juicy stories that you would like to tell us about this work and how it has affected people. Um, Give us one of those, will you?
Yeah, I could give you another one. Well, another adult son that I'm working with, just using his picture, he witnessed a really, it was another, actually, vehicular accident, but this was like 20 or 30 years ago, in which he saw a baby being killed, by a truck that ran into it, that ran into the car in front of him. He had pulled over, and because he noticed that the car in front of him had stopped suddenly, so he was able to get out of the way, but the truck behind him, and it was a big rig, was not able to stop on time and ran into the car, and the infant was killed. And he got out of his car to try to help, and he saw the baby had been decapitated.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, it was like really extremely traumatic. And the trauma was sitting in his energy field and in his entire being for all these, 20 or 30 years. And so that was one of the first things that I cleared for him was that trauma of what he witnessed. So each time I clear something significant, the it frees the spirit. It's like it takes the weight off their shoulders. And if it's a matter of guilt, it relieves them of the guilt. If that's what I'm clearing, whatever the person needs the most is what I do. Then they become free. They're able to breathe, able to relax, and be focused on their life, creating a better life for themselves and being of help to others, and fulfilling their life purpose. That's a big part of my mission is clearing the issues that prevent people from living a life of joy, freedom, and love, and and their divine purpose, what they're here for.
Hmm. I'm thinking of trauma and how we are a divided nation, and you can have trauma on either side of that. Um, does that ever come up in your work? Like, oh,
Often,
often,
o-
really?
often, yeah. I had another client who was driving with her husband, and they were hit by a car behind them. This was in Arizona, and uh, the truck rolled over, and she started to see the light, and she was told that it was not her time. And so she went back into her body, but she was left with severe PTSD driving. And in just one of her sessions, I was able to clear the PTSD from that truck rollover. And until that session, she had not been able to drive on the highway. But the next day, she was able to drive on the highway because she didn't have the trauma from the accident anymore.
Wow, that's really interesting. Huh.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, so is there, we're kind of coming to the end here now. So is there any um, thing that any other information that you'd like to leave us with that I forgot to ask you about?
Well, I offer a free 20-minute consultation that the listeners can sign up for on my website, phoenixrisinghealing.com. And I'm happy to talk with anyone about, what they would like my help with and what they would like to really feel at peace about, whether it's, grief over someone that they love that they lost, or a traumatic incident, or depression, or physical issues such as, the heart, or chronic pain,
Ringing in my ears?
ringing in the ears, yeah, Meniere's, vertigo, you name it, the COVID vaccines. A lot of people have been given steroids, for pain, like for knee pain, and steroids don't leave the body, unfortunately, and they work really short term. But I'm able to dissolve steroid toxicity. I can dissolve vaccine toxicity, like from the COVID vaccines. I can dissolve viruses like HPV, whatever it is, I can help people with, and I'm here to help as many people as I can. So,
And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
probably the website. They can send me an email through the website, phoenixrisinghealing.com, or they can email me directly at phoenixrisinghealing@gmail.com. And I would recommend if someone really wants to get ahead of some issues that they maybe sign up initially for the free consultation on the website, and that way we can talk, we can meet each other. I am really busy. I have to say, I don't have a lot of times left, but I will do my best to accommodate, someone who really wants to move forward and come to peace with any of their issues.
That sounds tremendously, what a gift to be able to give people not only the free thing, but the abilities that you have to help them clear these energetic blocks, no matter what form they take.
Yeah, thank you. I'm living
Ellie,
my purpose. That's what I'm here for, Scott. So,
you're
yeah,
living your purpose and you're going to help me and others live theirs. So,
absolutely. That's
Ellie,
what it's all about.
it's been
Yeah.
a true pleasure to have you with us here on the Afterlife Files. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me to be on your show, Scott. I appreciate it.
And for those of you watching, stick around because I've got a couple of ideas that I think you're going to enjoy as I explore some of the issues that Ellie has talked about. So, thank you, and we'll see you on the flip side. If we believe that everything is energy, it shouldn't surprise me that Ellie could use a picture to achieve her healing success. Because photographs are just still images of the energy of people, plants, landscapes, and yeah, but like things like birthday parties. And I must confess, I hadn't quite put that together before, but it makes total sense to me now. The other thing that struck me was the care with which the spiritual teams of Ellie and the client replaced the dissolved energy patterns with ones that were in the best interest of the client. That seemed to me both necessary and loving. Thanks for watching the Afterlife Files, and we'll see you next time.